to CSS today and sticking around before lunch. I'm going to talk about code patterns and pattern making. This is, if you're in Natalia's talk, I just stole her first slide. I'm Miriam, Suzanne. You can find me on Twitter. Say hi, find me after. So a lot of people have been talking about style guides lately. It's a big trend. How many of you have built a style guide recently? Okay, how many of you are designers? Some. And developers? CSS? Yeah, CSS day. That makes some sense. So this is something that everybody's talking about. And I guess I already asked that. There's in fact a new conference about it. It started last year. I think it's going to happen again this year. Dina runs that. Dina also helped build the Lightning design system, which is one of the big popular ones right now. Has everything in it. I think it's a beautiful system. It's even got motion, which they're talking about some. Style guides for exactly how an animation should work. That would be cool. But then there's lots of different ones. Lonely Planet has a nice style guide. There's the color palettes. Here's MailChimp's grid system. And the letter M. So that letter M, that is actually from a style guide. That's from this style guide, New York City Transit Authority Graphics Standards Manual, which was written in 1970. So this is not a new trend. Style guides have been around for a little while. And we can look back and see how they were done. It also has the letter N and the numbers 5 through 8, which is good. Those are good numbers. And it's got this page. This is my favorite page in the book. There's lots of pages like this. I picked this one. This tells you how to build the sign that letter is going to go on. So you've got the letter N, but you need to know how to build actually the physical signage. And that's what this is about. So that's part of the style guide. How are you going to build it? You are! So that's what I want to know. How am I going to build it? So this is a great style guide that I really like. I use this one all the time. I don't have that airplane. I want that airplane. I use a component library. Maybe this is atomic design. I don't know. I don't know what this is. I described it when I was looking, and I was like, what's that? So I'm just showing it to you because what's that? And then, yeah, this. Minecraft. I don't know. It feels like blocks, and then blocks, and then blocks. I don't know. In and out of digital. Sorry, I'm off topic. Code patterns are design patterns. You can't have a consistent design pattern without having consistent code patterns. And that's what we're going to talk about. So if you look at the Lightning design system, they show you not only what the pattern is, but also how to make it. They've got the code right there. We're going to ignore that because Lightning design system wasn't designed for you. It wasn't designed for your clients. It wasn't designed for your company or your product. Context matters. You're not Mailforce. You're not InstaFace. You're something else. Bootstrap wasn't built for you. Lots of these tools that we all end up using, they weren't built for all of us. And if you are in that very specific situation where you need that tool, great. But don't just go grabbing whatever the biggest companies are doing. They have really different use cases. So for me, I've got a very small team. How many of you are on a team of less than 10? Yeah, okay, a lot of you. And like bigger than 100? A few, yeah. So team size is going to make a big difference. How much are you passing this around? The structure of your team. We have very little border between designer and developer in our team because we're so small. So there's no walls that it's being thrown over. That's going to change how we do a design system. Lightning design system specifically is designed for anybody across the world to take their system and use it, irrespective of the technologies underlying the code. So it's all done in HTML. so that anybody can use it. Whether you're on Ruby or whatever backend system, whether you're using Sass or not, everybody can access it because they give you the CSS and they give you the HTML. That's not something I have to deal with. If I'm not giving my system to everybody, I'm building a system for a client. So it's a different thing. Internal versus consulting, that's going to be different. Are you building it for handoff to an internal team? Or are you building it for the long term? Who's working on it long term? Is it changing hands often? This is going to make a difference in how you design the system. Is it 1970? If it's 1970, how many of you are in 1970? Just a couple. If you're in 1970, you're going to make it a book. If you're not in 1970, you're probably making it digital, some sort of living style guide that updates with your code. So we're all dealing with similar problems. We have similar problems to the New York Transit Authority. We're solving similar issues. It's all UX, but we have different constraints, and that changes what we're able to do and how we focus on doing it. So it depends. I saw this from Sarah's last talk, and I was hoping she'd give that talk today, so so sorry. That's a animation by Rachel Smith. So this is my team, and Stacy is talking later today, so that's cool. But we're a very small team. We're consultants. We're often building an MVP for handoff back to the internal team. And so that really determines what we're doing with our style guides. We're not building for a raw distribution, we're building for the team. We want to give them the tools that they need to develop this over the long term. And specifically, we're not developing a lot of the style, a lot of features. We're building things that are going to be built onto. So we're really focused on, sometimes I turn the slide and it's just the wrong one. What are you going to do? That's my team when we first started. I was in 94. That's my brother's team. Doing a card sort, I think. Having the gathering. So we've got a small team, we're outside consultants, and our product is the good architecture. What we're handing off is the start of an architecture that hopefully an internal team can keep building on, and they've got a framework in place. So that changes what we're doing compared to other teams. We're trying to build tiny bootstraps for every client, as Dave said. So the first time I ran into that idea was actually the CSS systems talk from 2008, Natalie Down. She worked at ClearLeft, and they were also a small consulting company. I mean, not small in terms of their clients, but they were doing really nice work, and I watched her talk, and I really liked what she had to say. This was right around the time that some of the first CSS toolkits were coming out. What were they called? 960GS and Blueprint, things like that. And she was proposing a different approach. She said, instead of building basically the tiny bootstraps for every client thing, she said we need systems for developing our architectures, not one architecture that we use over and over again. So developing consistent naming patterns, consistent ways of thinking about layout, and then taking those from project to project. And again, that's different. They're doing consulting. So it's about taking the same system from one project to the next and being flexible about the details, which is something that you don't have to deal with if you're working on Facebook for 50 years. That seems long. So designing consistent systems that then have custom patterns inside of it. That's part of the goal. So in the web, patterns start with code. And here is, when I was first using Natalie's system, this was her layout technique, was that everything internally is on a grid and calculated as a percentage. But this is the math. So when I first started using Sass, I moved her math into this, and I was so happy that I could see the math and instead of just seeing the outcome. But it's pretty messy. You don't really know what that means when you look at it. So I wrote Susie, and Susie just takes that and says, okay, what is the actual pattern here? The pattern is I want to span 3. So making the code readable, that's what a pattern is about. And you don't need grids, so you don't need to use Susie. I don't recommend it. But that's the goal. The goal is to create patterns in your code that make the code more meaningful and more readable. Because code is communication, and this is also from Sarah's last talk. So she really ruined the day. I don't know what she was thinking. So in my mind, it's about building pattern APIs. What we're trying to do is build patterns that are contained and that you can call in an easy way if you've got an API for calling a pattern. And that's the thing that we're handing off. We're not worried as much about the specific features. We're worried about handing off these APIs and patterns that you can build out of. So you can see that again here with the icons. That's what they're doing. They're telling you if you use this code in their system, you'll always get the same result. And then they explain exactly what the different components of that, what the different arguments basically you can pass in. By using CSS, they're doing that with classes. And again, this is not how I would do it from my team because we have a different use case. They have to put everything in classes because they want to not care if you're using Sass or less or nothing at all. So I don't have to do it this way. I find different solutions to this same problem, but we're all creating these APIs that then we can hand off. In case you forgot, CSS was designed to make patterns, and that's why CSS works the way it does. Before CSS, we had no patterns. We had to put everything in line. It was directly attached. Sorry, I got a dry mouth. Is there water? Grab things. CSS was designed for this. We have a problem where we couldn't create patterns. So when people complain about the global scope, sorry, Adam, that's what makes it work. That's what gives us the ability to make a pattern. Without that global scope, we can't make the pattern. And then also we do have scoping. Things only inherit down. So that's scope. But CSS was made for that. Classes are for patterns. That's why classes exist. That's how we use them. The cascade is for patterns. It's all about how do we reuse patterns in different places. Take a minute to consider. And when we're working with specificity and we're working with patterns across this global scope and nesting, and the scope that comes with that, specificity is the guide for how you work with it. And that's where Harry Roberts' inverted triangle comes from. I never could figure out why he inverted it, so here's my version. But the idea is I take complete credit for this. He never thought of this shit. You've got, at the base, you've got the reach of a selector. So how many elements on the page is it going to affect? And then as you get more explicit in what you're targeting and narrower in reach, you also get more specificity. So that's the goal. The goal is that the selectors in your code with the least specificity also are intended to have the broadest reach. And then as you go towards narrower things, add specificity. That's why ID selectors have a higher specificity. They're intended to target one thing. So you should use that. That's built in. And that's how you do patterns in CSS. Here it is, his way. I don't know. But so he then talks about what happens in each layer. And these are his words. The last one there, it's trumps. I called it overrides. We're going to just move on. So, but the idea is at these broadest settings, or these broadest reach, we actually have now, because of SAS, or less, or stylus, we get broader than actually even any selector at all. So we now have things that are just settings and just toolkits that live at a layer above any output. And to me, it's very important to keep those separated out, because if I can keep my entire config and toolkit in a place where it can be pulled in individually without any CSS output, I can just grab that and put it anywhere that I need my system. And the entire system core lives there. All of the rules about how the system is going to work live at the settings at the tools level. And then we start dealing with actual code for the actual site. So using SAS or something that lets you do partials, you can actually organize your code that way. And my names are slightly different from Harry Roberts, but it's something like this. I've got a config, I've got some initial, this is where some sort of reset or normalize might live. The very basic first layer of broad-reaching actual CSS output. And then some sort of global layouts, also broad-reaching. And then I get into patterns. And to me, it's a pattern if I can reuse it in various contexts with various types of content. So if it's not specific to one piece of content on the site, it's a pattern that I can use across different pieces of content, like a form. I can have forms for different things. That's a pattern. So then I put that in the patterns code, and that's got a broader reach. And then I narrow down the components, which are often specific to a type of content. And then at the end, I don't really do a lot of overrides. Overrides happen in the components. But then I also have a separate file for Styleguide specific stuff. So that never gets included in the main site. That's only included in the Styleguide. But the Styleguide is going to draw from all the other code and then get a little of its own to lay out the page. So you've all heard, don't repeat yourself. And this is sort of the core to making patterns. When you find that you're repeating something, that's a good sign that it might be a pattern. Here's another one you should remember. Don't stretch for patterns. Just I'm not good at acronyms. So this is not a pattern. These elements share a border style. That's not a pattern. The fact that you use border style dashed at a few places, not a consistent pattern, unless it's part of your style guide is the meaning behind it. So what you're looking for is these things share a purpose, they share a meaning, that's when you have a pattern. So you could have border style dashed as a pattern, but not just because you used it a few times. What's important is that there's a meaningful connection, and that's what's going to make the code maintainable. When you change that, all the things that mean the same will update. So say you've got warning color red, make sure you're only using that on things that need the warning color, and then if you update that color, it will update the right pieces. And you're worried about the meaning of it, not just exactly what the code is. So this is an argument against utility classes in a lot of cases. Feel free to build one-offs. I've seen a lot of people get stuck in patterns and unable to think creatively on your site. You need things that stand out. Often the home page is a one-off. You're never going to use these patterns again. You just need, like the hero image is only on the home page. You don't need a hero image pattern. It's okay to just build a one-off. The other thing that we need to remember is that patterns combine languages. So any pattern on the web, any design pattern is going to require some design elements. What are the colors? What are the textures? It's going to require HTML, some sort of templating. It's going to require CSS and probably some JavaScript interaction. So if we're trying to capture in a style guide, how do you build it? How do you make the sign that's going to show the letter M? We need to show all of this somehow. Because the style guide is about the integration of the things. How do they all come together to form a pattern? It's about context and relationships. So here's the style guide that we have, very simple. But it's got the CSS, it's got the nunchucks. There's an output tab there that you can look at, and the list of the icons that are being created. So it's showing all of the different pieces that are involved in an icon. And for a lot of more complex patterns, you're going to have more pieces there, and being able to show how they all fit together is an important part of building style guide. The other thing that we found very early on, as soon as we started trying to do style guides, it was basically me at that point doing all of the design and all of the CSS and project management and several other things. We're not Salesforce. We didn't have a team that could just build style guides for our clients. And we're moving from one client to the next fairly quickly. But we need these style guides to be able to hand off and show them what's there. So the maintenance has to be integrated into our process somehow. Nobody is going to remember to come back into it. So this was a really important part. Building, especially, not just building it into the process, but building it into our toolkit. So our style guide generator that we're working on is built specifically around our toolkit. And we're open sourcing it, but I don't know. It's really designed to work with what we use every day anyway, so that we're not doing something new in order to generate the style guides. And there's still inconsistencies. We still don't always get the documentation written, but the more we get it integrated into our process and our toolkit, the better that comes out. Consistent naming conventions have to work across the entire team because we're integrated. Because a pattern is HTML and actually database calls and JavaScript and CSS, we want to make sure that we have consistent naming across the entire team, not just across one segment of the team. So we'll start a project by naming everything, and that's useful. When we come back, we can say, okay, we know that these are posts, not entries. Stop calling them entries. So just having that consistent, and there's not a right naming pattern. You just need to know it. Inverted triangle CSS, Max, CSS, then these all help you with naming conventions. There's not a right one. They all are trying to do the same things. They're all trying to help you deal with specificity. Some of them are trying to get rid of the cascade, but whatever. But they're all built for someone, and it might not be you. So don't take any of them as gospel. It's worth learning every single one of them and then taking the bits that work for what you're doing and building from there. Go in your own direction, make your own system. It still depends. I put still in there, so this is totally mine. She didn't make this at all. There's not a right answer, but not having an answer is totally wrong. That's the important thing, is that you're making these decisions intentionally with your team. So, boom, 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 website. This is Atomic Design at work. Remember to wear your helmet, there's dragons. Yeah, so let's look at actually building some of these patterns. So starting with abstract patterns, this was the first thing that we got into our automatically generated style guide system. So now when we start up a project, because we've got it built into our process and tooling, as we're putting the code in for the project that we're actually going to use, it automatically starts building style guides out of it. So we want something like this. We want to be able to see what are the 3 primary brand colors on our site. And some information about them. So that's what we want in the end. So how are we going to store this data? This would be fun, and this is coming. You should be learning custom properties and CSS variables. Those are the same thing. This is coming soon. It's already available in most browsers, I think not IE. But this is interesting because these variables inherit, and that gives you a lot of interesting things you can do. And we could actually automatically generate our style guide much easier if we were using this. But we don't quite have that built in yet. We're still dealing with Sass. So this is one of the most common things that Sass and other preprocessors are used for, is how am I going to store a few variables like colors to keep those patterns consistent. And this is the way a lot of people do it. Individual variables for each color. It's nice, it's easy to use. You can just call a variable, but there's no relationships. And there's no way for the system to know that these are all colors. So we wanted a different approach, and we use Sass maps to do it. This puts all of our colors into a single variable that takes them out of the global namespace. We've only got one colors variable. All of our colors are in it. And that contains them in a way that both the developers and the machine understand. This is readable to both humans and machines. But it has a problem. Normally, when we reference another variable and want to make adjustments, say we want the complementary color, or we want to desaturate it, we normally can just put the variable in there and make the adjustments and have these variables related. You can't do that in a map. At the point where you're generating the map doesn't yet exist, you can't call it. So there's no way to reference one color from another, and that's a problem. So we worked around it. This is how we do it. And basically we're just storing the information of what we want to do later. So we just save the key there that we'll want to go find. So brand pink has a color. Escher is just going to be brand pink. Then we've got Goodell is Escher, Bach is Goodell, and Kevin Bacon is Bach. And if you follow that path, you get back to pink. So Kevin Bacon should be pink. We've defined that, and we can also define, sort of like composition with functional programming, we define what functions we will want to call to make those adjustments. We've had to come up with our own syntax for that. And I just made a syntax that seemed readable, and then wrote a function that figures it all out. It goes back and finds the original color, it runs through the functions that you wanted to do, and it gives you back the result. So basically, we're storing all of our colors in one place, and we're actually calculating them when we need them. So that's probably a slight performance hit in terms of compiling your Sass. With libsass, not noticeable. So we've got map self-reference now. So that solves the map problem. Color Kevin Bacon gives us the pink. And I hear this all the time. It's over-engineered. What do you think? It is, and it's not. It doesn't matter. It still depends. You need to know the trade-offs when you're making tools like this. And sometimes you need to play with it before you know. Over-engineering is often part of the process. But it is meaningful to humans and machines. We can now loop through all of our colors. So that's basically what our style guide generator is going to do. And we know that all the colors are always there, so we don't need to be setting up new variables for this loop to look at. The loop always knows to look at the one place, and that place will always have all the colors. So again, that's building it into the process. We don't have to go change something else for the style guide to work. Now the style guide is just already knows. They can be accessed dynamically. With a variable, you can't pass it like say, okay, I've got a different name, let's call that variable. You can't do that, at least not in Sass. You can in Lexite. but you can do that with a function. You can call a function of any name. You get layers of abstraction. We split our things out actually first into separate variables that just give us some in different layers, because we think it's useful to have, here are the basic colors, and we just name them the color. This is pink, this is orange. And then we've got sort of a patterns layer for, there can be neutral colors. But you can have a patterns layer that's sort of broad. These are colors for this sort of pattern. This is your go color, this is your stop color. And then we'll get more specific and say, okay, so borders are this color, or this component specifically needs this color. So we can get into layers like that. And then we can export them, because a map can be exported to JSON. And so our Styleguide generator just grabs the map, exports it to JSON, and suddenly we have it in HTML where we can use it. So patterns need to be the lazy option, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to build toolkits that make patterns lazy. The easiest thing to do in our system is to put a color in the map, and then it's a pattern. That's much easier than creating a color on the fly, and that's what we want. We want it to be easier to make a pattern than not. We use, our tool is built off of SassDoc, which is a handy, it's not built for Styleguides, it's built for documenting Sass code, but it's very handy. And we've just adapted a little bit. So our project is called Herman, it's still very much in alpha, and I don't know if it'll ever be useful to you, but we're using it. And so we've just added a few options to SassDoc documentation, like we've got preview color palette, and it knows now that this block is a block of colors and that it should generate a color palette based on that. And there we go, automatically. So the first thing that we do on our site is we just make one map of colors and hit go, and we have a color palette in our Styleguide. This all making sense? Great. How hungry are you? Great. How many of you use modular scales? Or have? Okay, not very many. It's a pattern that some designers have picked up on. Some of it is based on magic, but some of it's useful just for giving yourself. The same is true with grids. Grids aren't magic. Modular scales aren't magic, but they can give you systems to work in. So that's when they're useful. So you can move this into the maps too and start to have named scales. You can create size maps, and we do that. Accoutrement scale works very much like our accoutrement color, where we can document what we want to change about. Like, okay, so rhythm is going to be the root size, but a fifth up. So we just sort of have our own syntax for manipulating sizes. And again, some people get caught in this, like, okay, I can adjust everything based on the root color. And again, you have to remember that patterns only exist if there's shared meaning. So if you don't actually want the rhythm to be related to the root, don't relate them. It's okay to do one-offs. But if they are related, document that relationship so that it's flat. We want our code to be meaningful. And then we can automatically generate right away. Here's our text sizes. Here's our spacing sizes. And you could probably make prettier displays of this if you wanted to, but hey, I'm in a hurry. We've got accoutrement type where we just store all of the font data in one place, in one map. From that map, we can automatically do all of our imports because we have all the information we need. We can automatically call a font by name, and it will create the right stack for us. And we can automatically generate the style guide because we have all the information we need in one place. Breakpoints can go into maps like that. You can do, I mean, basically you take the one function and you just keep copying and pasting and changing the name of it, and you've got recursive maps anywhere you need, all just using the same piece of code. So it's only over-engineered if it's getting in your way, and that's the test. Try using it. Does it get in your way? If it gets in your way, stop using it. There's no point of using a tool that gets in your way. So I've found these tools usually helpful. A few of them have gotten in our way at points, and then we go back and we rework it. We say, okay, well, what's not working? It's the same thing you would do on a project. It's part of the process. So, like, here's an example of a pattern I built at one point. I was just playing around with CSS-only tabs, and I built this, and I built a toolkit around it, right? So here's a tabs mixed in that does way too many things, and it starts to care about style, and it's complex. And I was never able to use it on more than one project because it was just too specific. So I pulled it apart and said, okay, what's essential? There was only one piece in there that was essential. It was this. That was the only special thing in that code. So now this is in our toolkit. And we got rid of all the cruft, right? And so it's okay to over-engineer something first and then slowly winnow it down to just what do I need? What's going to be the most useful from one place to the next? Toolkits are a byproduct. It should come out of what you're doing. So you try a thing, you find yourself repeating the same pattern. Susie came out of me being tired of typing in numbers into a calculator. And I just put those numbers into a SAS function, and you used it. I don't know why. It's crazy. So toolkits provide trade-offs, and there's always going to be pros and cons, and you're just going to have to figure out what they are and figure out when it's worthwhile to you. But tools should fit you. You shouldn't have to change what you're doing to fit the tool. And this is the problem that I have with Bootstrap and a lot of those, is you have to go to them. And that's crazy. You don't want a hammer that only hits one thing. You just want to hit stuff. If you are building toolkits, it's useful. You can use tests in SAS like you would in any other language. And that's useful. If you're doing logic, it's not useful. There's no way to test your styles in sort of an automated way like this. Somebody can make something that just tells you if it's good or bad. Like, no. Why bigger logo? So if you have logic, test it. If you don't have logic, don't worry about it. So this is how true works. I'm not going to go into details, but it gives you test results for your SAS. And I use this on all our toolkits. We don't use it very often actually in projects because, like I said, there's no need to test when there's not logic. Dealing with concrete patterns, it's a little different. This has been a little bit harder to figure out than how to sort of take those abstract patterns and make them a style guide. But the most important thing is that patterns don't exist unless they're documented. And we found that over and over again. If nobody can find out what the pattern is, they don't know it exists, and they won't use it. When I first built Susie, I only documented the mix-ins, and then everybody only used the mix-ins. And I was like, what are you doing? The functions are way better, but I didn't document them. So they didn't exist. They weren't public. So it's really important. Anything that you need people to use, make sure it's in the documentation. So if we want to create, just want to see how I'm doing. Great. If we want to create notifications with icons, here's a concrete pattern. This is actually a component. We've got to start getting out of just SAS and start dealing with actual HTML and JavaScript and whatever other pieces are involved. We use a templating language, and there's several that don't like logic. Like, people are into this idea that templating languages shouldn't have logic, and that's crazy. Templating languages should definitely have logic. It's like preprocessors for your workup. There's really good reasons for this. There's types of data that you want to store in a way that's reusable, but you don't want to display the raw data. And that's a presentation issue. And presentation issues should live in your templates. So we use a templating language. We use nunjux/Jinja. Jinja is the Python version, and nunjux gives us the same templating language in JavaScript. So we can display things on either rendered by the server or by the client. But it lets us do something like this, okay? So we want the icon to be the OK icon if success, otherwise we want the warning. And we can sort of put those logical patterns into our HTML. there's a couple gotchas in terms of how languages are designed that I think are a problem. A language should be a superset. That's something that SAS found out very quickly when they started with a syntax that was not a superset of CSS, and they didn't like it. And people only used it for the syntax, the white space syntax. And then when they made it a superset of CSS, that's when it got raw support, because that's useful. It's useful to be able to take a CSS file and change the extension, and suddenly you have a SAS file, and you can start building on it from there. That's a good thing. Also, being able to clearly distinguish what is CSS and what is SAS. That's an important thing that they've done in that language that Less didn't do. And Stylus makes even more hidden. And then post CSS, a lot of people using post CSS, you can't tell what's going to stay and what's going to be changed. And that's a problem for anybody looking at code. And SAS has gone out of the way to make sure that everything in your code, if it looks like CSS, it will act like CSS. If it doesn't look like CSS, it will be compiled. And you're able to tell just by reading it. And that's those distinctions, those are important design features of the language. And some templating languages haven't followed either of those rules. And it bugs me. There's things in there that look like HTML, and they're not. And there's things in there that look like they're not HTML. And wait, there's things in there, yeah, it's just not clear what's HTML in there and what's going to be compiled, what's the component, they're all mixed together, and it's not consistent. So I like this better. You can tell right away looking at this which parts of it are HTML and which parts of it are not HTML. And it's a direct superset. You can use pure HTML and it will work as nunjucts. I also think it's important that it looks like markup. People that are coming from HTML can look at it and say, I see a structure. I see the DOM that you're building. There's a reason that HTML is designed to look like structure. And when we take that away, what are we building? I want to be able to see that I'm building a DOM structure. That's an important part of the markup language. So why remove it? JavaScript is not a universal solution. We don't all know JavaScript. We don't all need to know JavaScript. It wasn't designed for this. Move on. Talk done. Okay, so looking at icons again, that's the first thing that we're going to need. Here's their system. It's got all these classes. Like I said, I don't need to use classes because I don't have sort of the same constraints. Anytime that I see that I've got a set of classes that are all being used in a system, like what SLDS icon text warning, that's a system. And they've got different ones for icon text success, icon text error. Whenever I see classes that go together as a set, I move those into data attributes so that they're contained and the pattern is in one place. And you can just look there and it's consistent. So SLDS icon color becomes a data attribute, and then the change that you're doing, whatever part of that class selector is changing, that goes into the value. And this just makes all of the patterns clear. Once it's a pattern, it moves out of classes and becomes something else. Same with their icon size, I would move that in. And with macros, I would go further and be able to really say, okay, this is a pattern that only has a few arguments and you don't need to copy the whole block of code. So here's creating a macro in Jinja. And you can see it's just the code and a couple of arguments you can pass in, very much like a mix-in in SAS. And now, instead of copying and pasting that entire block from their website, you would just copy, you would just say, okay, I've got the icon macro, and I'll just say which icon I want, and it will put out the code. So this is useful. It's useful to have this kind of logic in our templating languages the same way it's useful in our CSS. This is how we build patterns and make the code meaningful. So what was I doing with dynamic colors and sizes? Oh yeah, right. So then I can loop through. I can say, here's my set of colors, here's my set of sizes, and instead of rewriting each selector, I just loop through them and create a data attribute for each one. So the loop just takes each of our sizes and each of our colors and creates a data attribute for it. And then with Herman, we threw in a thing that just, you pointed at a file of SVG icons, and it generates same as a color palette, but now grabbing all of the SVG icons and laying them out on the page, so that we have that in our style guide automatically. If we add a new icon to the folder, it shows up in our style guide. So there we have. Oh, right, we haven't actually built the notification. So it's another macro similar to the last one, and then we have the ability to document it right there in our Sass, and actually reference the Jinja code, and our system knows to convert Jinja and show us the actual output. So it's all of that is contained right there where we're creating the pattern. And there's some tension, and we're still sorting this out, of like, does that belong in the CSS? Where does the pattern live? We have to put the documentation of the pattern somewhere. We want it to be as close to where we're working as possible, so we're not going somewhere else. But that's a difficult decision. For us, it's mostly Stacy and I in the code, in the CSS, that want to be documenting the patterns, so we put it there. But it might make more sense for some people to put that documentation in the templating. Style guides are just output. We're not here to build the style guide. The style guide, if we've built an API right for our patterns, the style guide should be able to generate it. Style guide should be output from code we already have. The code contains the pattern. That's where patterns actually live. And patterns should make the code readable, and they should make the code meaningful.